I'll get at least $8 million for the property once she's declared incompetent, my son Wesley said, his voice cold and calculating. I lay motionless in my bed, eyes shut, breathing steady, pretending to sleep while my own children plotted against me. Pinecrest already has a room reserved, my daughter, Gwen added. Once the guardianship hearing is over, we'll move her there immediately. Only Parker, my youngest, hesitated. But what if Mom finds out? She was one of the best attorneys in the state. Wesley laughed dismissively. She's 75 with memory issues. By the time she realizes what's happening, it'll be too late. When they finally left, I reached for my phone with trembling hands and made one call to Jasper Montgomery, my former law partner of 30 years. Jasper, I whispered, I need your help. My children are trying to steal everything from me. His response was immediate. Don't confront them. Act confused when they're watching. Brilliant when they're not. I'll be there tomorrow morning. And that's when I began orchestrating the plan that would teach my children never to underestimate a woman who spent 40 years outsmarting people who prey on the vulnerable. I'm glad you're here. If you're watching this video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're listening to my revenge story from. I want to know how far it has reached. My name is Miriam Braddock, and until 10 years ago, I was the managing partner at Montgomery & Braddock, specializing in elder law and financial protection. The irony that I would need to use my expertise against my own children wasn't lost on me. It began with a minor fall in my garden. At 75, I was still remarkably independent, living in the historic Braddock estate that had been in my late husband Howard's family for generations. The 20-acre property, now surrounded by upscale development, was worth millions, a fact my children were acutely aware of. Within hours of my fall, all three arrived at the mansion under the pretense of concern. Wesley, my oldest at 48, arrived first in his tailored suit that couldn't quite hide his desperation. Once a successful real estate developer like his father, he'd made a series of disastrous investments that left him drowning in debt. Mom, you really gave us a scare, he said, helping me to the sofa while his eyes darted around the grand living room, mentally calculating its value as they always did. My daughter Gwen arrived next, designer handbag matching her shoes. At 45, she had married Emmett Hargrove, a developer whose ambition was matched only by his greed. She kissed my cheek perfunctorily before checking her phone. This place is simply too much for someone your age to manage alone, she said, not bothering to look up. Only Parker, my youngest at 42, showed genuine concern. A literature professor living across the state, he visited less frequently than the others, but called more often. How are you really doing, Mom? He asked, sitting beside me. I assured them all I was fine, just a bruised hip and wounded pride. Dr. Blackwell had already examined me and confirmed nothing was broken. But Wesley was insistent. What if next time you hit your head? What if no one finds you for hours? For the next few days, my children stayed at the estate. Wesley took calls in Howard's study, speaking in hushed tones. Gwen and Emmett whispered in corners, falling silent when I approached. Even Parker seemed distracted. Only my granddaughter Vanessa, Gwen's 19-year-old daughter home from college, behaved normally. She sat with me each morning, helping with crossword puzzles and sharing stories about her classes. Grammy, she said on the third day, why is Dad asking so many questions about the property boundaries? I frowned. Is he? She nodded, blonde hair falling forward. And Mom and Uncle Wesley keep talking about some buyer. Are you selling part of the estate? That night, unable to sleep, I slipped into Howard's study. The desk drawer was locked, but I knew where Howard kept the spare key behind the loose baseboard beside the fireplace. Inside, I found a folder marked Braddock Estate Proposed Development. The contents made my blood run cold. Architectural plans showing my home demolished, replaced by luxury condominiums. Another document outlined the estimated profits, over $30 million. And there, on a preliminary purchase agreement was Emmett's signature as the buyer, with a space left blank for the seller me. I replaced everything exactly as I found it, my mind racing. They couldn't sell without my consent, unless they had me declared incompetent. The next day, I decided to test my theory. I deliberately poured orange juice into my coffee instead of cream, then stared at it confused. "Mom?" Gwen asked, exchanging a look with Wesley. "Oh dear," I said, feigning embarrassment. I seemed to have mixed up my beverages. Wesley pulled out his phone and snapped a photo when he thought I wasn't looking. Throughout the day, I forgot simple things, misplacing my glasses, calling Parker by Howard's name, putting the milk in the pantry instead of the refrigerator. Each incident was minor, but together they painted a picture of cognitive decline. That night, I told everyone I was feeling tired and would turn in early. "The medication Dr. Blackwell prescribed makes me drowsy," I explained, though she had prescribed nothing of the sort. I went to my bedroom, but left the door slightly ajar. Then I settled into my wingback chair, positioned near the door but not visible from the hallway. Just after 9, I heard footsteps. Someone pushed my door open slightly. I kept my breathing deep and even. My eyes closed. "She's asleep," Wesley whispered. The door closed quietly. Then voices moved toward Howard's study. Silently, I followed, careful to avoid the creaky floorboard. The study door was partially closed, but I could hear them clearly. "The timing couldn't be better," Wesley was saying. "Her fall, these memory lapses, Dr. Finch says we have enough to petition for guardianship." "But what about Dr. Blackwell?" Parker asked. "She's been Mom's doctor for years. She'll testify that Mom is perfectly competent. We'll claim she's biased." Wesley dismissed. "Dr. Finch has agreed to conduct an evaluation that will support our case. He owes me a favor after I helped him secure financing for his medical building." My hands shook with rage, but I remained silent. "Once we have guardianship," Gwen added, "we can move forward with the sale. Emmett already has the investors lined up. We'll each walk away with about $10 million. "And what about Mom?" Parker asked, his voice strained. "Where will she go?" "Pinecrest Assisted Living is expecting her," Wesley answered. "I've already reserved a room." I almost gasped aloud. Pinecrest, the very facility I had investigated decades ago for their negligent care practices. I'd spent years helping clients escape places like that. "I don't know." Parker hesitated. "It feels wrong. This house means everything to Mom. She won't know the difference soon enough." Wesley said dismissively, "Besides, we all need this money. You're buried in student loan debt. I'm facing bankruptcy, and Gwen and Emmett need capital for their new development." "The hearing is in 3 weeks," Gwen continued. "We just need to document more instances of memory loss and confusion. We need to build our case." "And if she fights it?" Parker asked. Wesley laughed coldly. "She's 75 with memory issues. By the time she realizes what's happening, it'll be too late." I returned to my room, my mind racing. In the morning, I called Tabitha Underwood, my loyal housekeeper of 30 years, and gave her a list of groceries, including specific instructions to buy from 3 different stores. It would keep her out of the house for hours. Then I picked up my phone and called the one person I knew I could trust. "Jasper," I whispered when he answered. "I need your help. My children are plotting against me." Jasper Montgomery had been my law partner for 3 decades before my retirement. At 77, he still practiced, his mind as sharp as ever. "Tell me everything," he said, his voice calm but concerned. I explained what I had discovered, the development plans. Dr. Finch, the guardianship hearing. "Don't confront them," he advised after a long pause. "If they know you're onto them, they'll accelerate their plans. Act confused when they're watching, brilliant when they're not. I'll be there tomorrow morning." That night, I lay awake formulating my plan. I had spent 40 years protecting the elderly from exploitation. Now I would need to use every trick I had learned to protect myself from my own children. The next morning at breakfast, I deliberately put salt in my tea instead of sugar. "Mom," Wesley said, his voice dripping with false concern. "Are you feeling all right?" "Of course, dear," I smiled vacantly. "Why do you ask?" He shared a meaningful look with Gwen. When they weren't looking, I switched my cup with Wesley's, watching with secret satisfaction as he grimaced at the salty taste before discreetly emptying it into a potted plant. At precisely 10 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Tabitha showed Jasper into the living room, his imposing figure still straight despite his years, silver hair perfectly combed. Wesley frowned. "Mr. Montgomery, what brings you here?" "I have a standing appointment with your mother every month," Jasper replied smoothly. "We review her investments together." "Surely she mentioned it?" I gave them my most confused look. "Did I forget to tell you? Jasper comes on is it the first Tuesday?" "Second Thursday, Miriam," Jasper corrected gently. "May we use Howard's study?" Wesley hesitated. "I was actually working in there." "It's fine, dear," I interrupted. "We won't be long." Once inside the study, with the door closed, Jasper's demeanor changed completely. "You look perfectly lucid to me, Miriam," he said, his voice low. I nodded grimly. "I am, but they're building a case against me. Wesley has some doctor in his pocket ready to declare me incompetent." Jasper's eyes flashed with anger. "We won't let that happen. I've already put some things in motion." He opened his briefcase and pulled out several documents. "First, we need to protect your assets. Sign this power of attorney naming me as your agent. We'll keep it in reserve, only to be used if the guardianship petition is granted." I signed without hesitation. "Next, this is a revocation of all previous powers of attorney you may have granted to your children." I frowned. "I never gave them power of attorney." "Check your records," Jasper advised grimly. "Wesley is resourceful. He may have slipped something past you." Next, Jasper handed me a small device. "This is a voice-activated recorder. Keep it with you at all times. Connecticut is a one-party consent state for recordings. Everything they say to you is evidence." "And what about the guardianship hearing?" I asked. "I've already contacted Judge Lowell," Jasper replied. "She remembers you well from the Pinecrest case. She's agreed to preside over the hearing, but we need more than just her goodwill. We need to build our own case." After Jasper left, I searched my files and made a shocking discovery. A power of attorney document, supposedly signed by me 2 years earlier, granting Wesley broad authority over my affairs. The signature looked remarkably like mine, but I knew I had never signed it. That evening, as Tabitha served dinner, I decided to push my children further. "I was thinking," I said casually, "perhaps I should sell some of the property. 20 acres is too much to maintain." Wesley nearly choked on his wine. "You want to sell?" "Just the back 10 acres, I said vaguely. "I never go back there anymore." "That's an excellent idea, Mom," Gwen said quickly. "Emmett knows real estate. He could help you get the best price." "Actually," I continued, "I was thinking of donating it for a nature preserve. Howard would have liked that." The horror on their faces was almost comical. Wesley recovered first. "Mom, that land is worth millions. You shouldn't make decisions like that without consulting a financial advisor." "Oh?" I asked innocently. "Do you think I'm not capable of making my own decisions?" An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Parker shifted in his seat, avoiding my gaze. "Of course not, Mom," Wesley finally said. "We just want what's best for you." "And what do you think is best for me?" I pressed. "Well," Gwen interjected, "we were thinking that this house is too much for you. Perhaps something smaller, with people to look after you." "Like a nursing home?" I asked, my voice deliberately quavering. "An assisted living community," Wesley corrected. "Pinecrest is very nice." I widened my eyes. "Pinecrest?" Isn't that the place where they found that poor woman who'd fallen in her bathroom and wasn't discovered for 2 days? Wesley paled. I'm sure that's just a rumor. No, I insisted, enjoying his discomfort. I remember the case clearly. Montgomery and Braddock represented her family. That was before your father died, so about 6 years ago. I watched as Wesley and Gwen exchanged panicked glances. I had just demonstrated a clear, long-term memory contradicting the narrative they were building. That night, I heard them arguing in the study. She remembers the Pinecrest case in detail, Wesley hissed. Dr. Finch said her long-term memory would be affected too. Maybe it comes and goes, Gwen suggested. We just need to document the bad moments. Over the next week, I played my role perfectly. When they were watching, I was a confused elderly woman putting my watch in the refrigerator, forgetting their names, getting lost in my own home. But I was careful to never do anything that could be considered dangerous to myself. When they weren't looking, I was meticulously documenting everything. The recorder Jasper gave me captured every conversation. I took photographs of the development plans when the study was empty. I even found copies of emails between Wesley and Dr. Finch discussing my evaluation. Vanessa became my unwitting ally. Grammy, she asked one afternoon while helping me in the garden, why are you acting strange around Mom and Uncle Wesley, but normal with me? I froze. My performance hadn't fooled her. What do you mean, dear? She gave me a knowing look. Yesterday you called Uncle Wesley by Dad's name 3 times. But when we were alone, you remembered every detail about my roommate's medical school applications. You're pretending, aren't you? I studied my granddaughter's face, weighing my options. Finally, I decided to trust her. Can you keep a secret, Vanessa? Even from your mother? She nodded without hesitation. I told her everything, the development plans, the guardianship hearing, my counter plan. Instead of being shocked, she seemed almost relieved. I knew something was wrong, she said. Mom and Dad have been fighting about money for months. Last week, I overheard Dad telling her that your property was the solution to their problems. Vanessa became my eyes and ears. She reported conversations, took photos of documents left carelessly visible, and even planted my recorder in rooms where I wasn't present. 2 weeks before the hearing, Jasper visited again. This time, he brought Dr. Sylvia Blackwell with him. Miriam, Dr. Blackwell said after a thorough examination, I see absolutely no indication of cognitive impairment. Your memory is excellent. Your reasoning is sound, and your physical health is remarkable for someone your age. Will you testify to that at the hearing? I asked. She nodded firmly. I've already prepared my report, and I've asked a colleague from the Geriatric Psychiatric Association to conduct an independent evaluation next week. Good, Jasper said. We'll need all the expert testimony we can get. Wesley's Dr. Finch has a questionable reputation, but he's persuasive. The next day, I received a certified letter informing me officially of the guardianship hearing. Wesley, Gwen, and Parker were listed as the petitioners, claiming I was no longer capable of managing my personal or financial affairs due to advanced cognitive decline. That evening at dinner, I decided to confront them indirectly. I received an interesting letter today, I said casually, watching their reactions. Something about a guardianship hearing. Wesley nearly dropped his fork. Mom, we can explain. No need, I interrupted, my voice deliberately faint and confused. It must be a mistake. Why would anyone question my competence? It's for your own protection, Gwen said quickly. After your fall, we've all been worried. We just want what's best for you, Wesley added. I looked at Parker, who couldn't meet my eyes. And you, Parker? Do you think your mother is incompetent too? He swallowed hard. Mom, it's complicated. Yes, I agreed, allowing a hint of my true feelings to show. Betrayal usually is. The table fell silent. For the first time, I saw fear in Wesley's eyes. He recovered quickly. You're confused, Mom. There's no betrayal happening. We love you. I smiled sadly. I'm sure you think you do. That night, Vanessa slipped into my room. Grammy, you need to see this, she whispered, handing me her phone. It was a text conversation between Gwen and Emmett. Mom knows about the hearing. She's acting strange. Emmett, can Wesley's doctor move up the evaluation? He's coming tomorrow. Says he can declare her unfit for immediate emergency guardianship. Emmett, good. Buyers are getting impatient. Need to close within 30 days. What about her stuff? Emmett, storage unit. She won't need much at Pinecrest. My hands shook with rage, but I kept my voice steady. Thank you, Vanessa. This changes things. As soon as she left, I called Jasper. Despite the late hour, he answered immediately. They're accelerating their plans, I told him. Dr. Finch is coming tomorrow for an emergency evaluation. Jasper was silent for a moment. We need to move now. I'll be there first thing in the morning with the sheriff and our restraining order. Restraining order? Judge Lowell signed it this afternoon. It prevents anyone from removing you from your home pending the hearing. I was going to bring it tomorrow anyway. The next morning, I dressed with particular care, choosing a tailored suit I used to wear to court. I styled my hair, applied subtle makeup, and put on the pearl necklace Howard had given me on our 40th anniversary. When I came downstairs, Wesley was waiting in the foyer with a thin man carrying a medical bag. Mom, Wesley said with false cheerfulness, this is Dr. Finch. He's just here to do a quick evaluation. I smiled pleasantly. Good morning, gentlemen. I'm afraid I have plans this morning. Wesley's smile faltered. This won't take long, Mom. It's important. More important than the sheriff waiting in my driveway? I asked, gesturing toward the window where a police cruiser had just pulled up. Wesley whirled around, his face paling. What's going on? Why is the sheriff here? I believe he's serving you with papers, I replied calmly. And unless I'm mistaken, that's Jasper Montgomery with him. The doorbell rang, and Tabitha hurried to answer it. Sheriff Coleman entered, followed by Jasper and two other people I recognized as partners from our old firm. Wesley Braddock? The sheriff asked. Wesley nodded stiffly. I'm serving you with this emergency restraining order, preventing the removal of Miriam Braddock from her residence, he said, handing Wesley a document. And this, he continued, producing another paper, is a cease and desist order regarding any attempt to sell or develop the Braddock estate without the express written consent of its legal owner. Dr. Finch backed toward the door. I should come back another time. Actually, Doctor, Jasper interjected, I'd like you to stay. The Connecticut Medical Board is very interested in speaking with you about conducting unauthorized competency evaluations without the patient's consent. Gwen and Parker appeared at the top of the stairs, drawn by the commotion. What's happening? Gwen demanded. I turned to face my children, allowing them to see me fully not as a confused old woman, but as Miriam Braddock, attorney at law, in complete command of her faculties. What's happening, I said clearly, is that your plan has failed. For the next hour, in Howard's study, I laid out everything I knew. The development plans, the fake memory lapses, the guardianship petition, Dr. Finch's fraudulent evaluation, even the falsified power of attorney. You've been documenting my every mistake, I said, placing my own folder on the desk. Well, I've been documenting too. I played recordings of their conversations about selling my home, moving me to Pinecrest, and dividing the proceeds. This is illegal, Wesley sputtered. You recorded us without consent. Connecticut is a one-party consent state, Jasper reminded him. Miriam was a party to these conversations. And this, I continued, pulling out the falsified power of attorney, is forgery, a federal offense. Wesley's face drained of color. You could all face criminal charges, Jasper added gravely. Financial exploitation of an elder is taken very seriously these days. The penalties can include substantial fines and imprisonment. "We never meant to hurt you, Mom," Gwen said, tears streaming down her face. "We just needed help. Selling my home and putting me in a facility against my will would have hurt me deeply," I replied. "If you needed financial help, you could have simply asked." Parker had remained silent, his face ashen. "I knew it was wrong," he finally said. "I should have stopped it. I'm so sorry, Mom." I looked at my children, Wesley defiant, Gwen tearful, Parker remorseful, and felt a profound sadness. Where had I gone wrong? When had money become more important to them than family? "The guardianship hearing is still scheduled for next week," Jasper said. "We can proceed and let the judge decide, or you can withdraw your petition now." "What do you want, Mom?" Parker asked quietly. I took a deep breath. "I want my home and my autonomy. Beyond that, I want time to decide what kind of relationship we can salvage from this betrayal." Wesley stood abruptly. "This isn't over." "Actually, it is," Jasper countered. "If you pursue this guardianship, we'll be forced to present all this evidence, including the forged document and the recordings. The judge will have no choice but to refer the matter for criminal prosecution." Wesley stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Gwen followed after a moment's hesitation. Only Parker remained. "I'll withdraw from the petition immediately," he said, his voice breaking. "Whether you can ever forgive me or not, I won't be part of hurting you anymore." After everyone left, I sat alone in Howard's study, emotionally exhausted. Vanessa found me there, slipping quietly into the room. "Are you okay, Grammy?" she asked, perching on the arm of my chair. I reached for her hand. "I will be. Thank you for helping me, Vanessa. You showed more integrity than the rest of your family combined." She squeezed my hand. "I couldn't let them do that to you. Not when you've always been there for me." The guardianship hearing was indeed withdrawn. Wesley disappeared to Florida, presumably to escape the mountain of debt that had driven him to such desperate measures. Gwen and Emmett separated shortly after, their marriage another casualty of their failed scheme. Only Parker made genuine attempts to repair our relationship, visiting regularly and calling often. It would take time to rebuild trust, but his remorse seemed sincere. As for me, I made some changes of my own. I updated my will, leaving the estate to Vanessa with the provision that it could never be sold or developed. I also established a foundation to provide legal assistance to elderly victims of financial exploitation. Jasper suggested I consider returning to practice part-time. "The law misses you, Miriam," he said over lunch one day. "And frankly, I could use your expertise on a case involving a nursing home chain." I laughed. "Are you suggesting I come out of retirement at 75? "Age is just a number," he winked, "as you so brilliantly proved." 6 months later, I found myself back in a courtroom, seated beside Jasper, representing an elderly client whose children had tried to take control of her assets, much like my own had attempted with me. As I rose to address the court, I caught the judge's eye and received a nod of respect. In that moment, I felt Howard's presence, almost as if he were whispering in my ear, "Show them what you're made of, Miriam." And that's exactly what I did. The case concluded with a resounding victory, not just for our client, but for all elderly individuals facing exploitation. The judge cited my own experience as compelling evidence of how cognitive decline can be manufactured by those with financial motives. My personal ordeal had transformed into a powerful legal precedent. As for my children, life delivered its own form of justice. Wesley's financial empire collapsed completely when his investors learned of his attempt to defraud his own mother. He now works as a sales clerk in a hardware store in Florida, living in a one-bedroom apartment. Gwen and Emmett divorced, with Emmett losing most of his fortune in a separate lawsuit for developer fraud. Only Parker found redemption, becoming an advocate for elder rights and working to rebuild our relationship one honest conversation at a time. Vanessa, My beautiful granddaughter, who stood by me when everyone else betrayed me, now lives in the guest house on the estate and is studying law at my alma mater. The irony isn't lost on me that my children's greed ultimately secured the legacy I always wanted: a new generation, carrying forward my commitment to justice. The 20-acre Braddock estate remains intact, protected by an ironclad trust that prevents development for the next 100 years. I still live independently in my home, though I've hired a companion who helps with the heavier tasks. And 3 days a week, I still practice law alongside Jasper, specializing in what else? Protecting the elderly from financial exploitation. The lesson? Never underestimate an elderly woman with a lifetime of knowledge, especially one who spent her career outsmarting those who prey on the vulnerable. My children thought my age made me an easy target. Instead, it gave me the wisdom and experience to recognize their scheme and the courage to fight back. I often wonder what would have happened if I hadn't pretended to be asleep that day, if I hadn't overheard their plot. Would I be languishing in Pinecrest now? My home bulldozed for condominiums? The thought still chills me. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have confronted your children immediately? Or would you have played the long game as I did? I'm genuinely curious to know what you think, because every family has its secrets, and every person has their breaking point. God always blesses, and I firmly believe that courage leads us to better days. Meanwhile, on the end screen, I leave you with 2 of the channel's most beloved stories. I assure you, they will surprise you. Thank you for staying until the end.